Sawadee krap, ni hao, apa khabar, vanakkam. Hello and welcome everyone. I've just greeted you in Thai and in Mandarin, Malay, Tamil and English, the 4 official languages of Singapore, where I'm from. My name is Yangfa, and maybe just a real quick trigger warning. I am going to be talking about suicide, so your comfort and your, emotional safety is very important as well. So if along the way you just want to step out and take a break, that's all right, that's fine with me. And if at some point, or maybe at the end of the session, you need to have someone to talk to, I'll make myself available as well, if that's okay with everyone. Self-care and support, very important. So, like I said, my name is Yangfa, I'm from Singapore. As a gay man, as a registered social worker, and a queer advocate, I have my personal and professional experiences of suicide. As someone who has felt distressed and suicidal before when I was younger, my professional experience of supporting people through their own suicide crises, and also losing people I know, professionally and personally, through suicide. That was awkward, wasn't it? You're probably wondering why I made you stare at the iceberg for 40 seconds. The World Health Organization tells us that every 40 seconds, someone in the world will die by suicide. By the end of my 8-minute talk, 12 people in the world somewhere would have killed themselves. By the year 2020, by the end of the year, that means that every year, worldwide, up to 1 million people die by suicide. By the year 2020, it is estimated that this will increase to someone dying every 20 seconds in the world somewhere. International research also tells us that queer and gender diverse persons, especially young people, are up to 3 to 4 times at higher risk of having suicidal thoughts or behaviors compared to their non-queer peers. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Very often when we talk about the impact of suicide, we often use the analogy of the iceberg. We know that, and this is because we know that official statistics, official suicide statistics usually don't tell the whole story. Just allow me to explain. Say, for example, I start with 100 suicide deaths, official suicides. In Singapore, for example, we still use a legal definition of suicide. So that means the coroner, who is actually a judge, would pass a suicide verdict and following police investigations. You can imagine that oftentimes there will be unofficial or undocumented suicides. Again, research tells us that something like 10% of suicides are not included in the official statistics, not just in Singapore, but around the world as well. So there can be different reasons. For example, insufficient information about the cause of death, cultural taboos, police cover-ups by the family. And because a suicide is not officially recorded as a suicide, it does not mean that the person did not die by suicide. Does that make sense? So if we add 10% to that, so that goes 110. Research also tells us that for every suicide death, between 7 to 15 more people may attempt suicide and they do not die. So they won't be recorded in the death statistics. I'm just using a factor of 10 here. So let's say, for example, for every 1 person that dies by suicide, another 10 attempt suicide. So that adds up again, right? Now imagine, again, this is where it might get a bit difficult for some of us. Imagine if someone you knew were to die by suicide or were to attempt suicide, how many people around them may be affected? It could be anything from 5 to 10, family members, loved ones, friends, classmates, co-workers, caregivers. I'm just using a very conservative estimate of 5 persons affected for every person who dies by suicide or attempts suicide. So if we add that all together, that's what the numbers look like. And that would be the full impact of suicide. I think we just got the numbers at the end. So that just comes from 100 official suicide stats. I'm just going to show you a picture of this very nice-looking person here. Dr. Ivan Maya, if anyone here may know of him, please apologize to him on my behalf. I'm probably not going to do a very good job of introducing him as well. He's from the UCLA School of Law, and he's very notable for developing a model of minority stress that describes the relationships of the relationship between social stresses and mental disorders that helps to explain LGBT health inequalities and disparities. So, just going to show you a little model there. So, going back to why LGBT persons may be LGBTQI persons may be at high risk of suicide. Social stresses in the form of homophobia and transphobia, we're all familiar with that. Rejection and lack of supportive community resources all interact to generate very negative health outcomes, for example, mood disorders, suicidal behavior. I just want to very quickly talk about another piece of research that's come from Singapore, Samaritans of Singapore, and based on a local study, identified 3 very distinctive groups of suicide warning signs that may indicate suicidal behavior. So I just acknowledge Samaritans of Singapore for that. The first group would be verbal expressions of suicide. They are often very helpful in indicating suicidal thoughts. So an example of a verbal expression would be someone saying, I can't take this pain anymore, or something as blatant as, I just want to die. So that's an example of a verbal expression of suicide. And the second group of suicide warning signs that have come from this piece of research is making plans. Suicide is very rarely an impulsive act. So when someone appears to be making plans to kill themselves, for example, writing suicide notes in this current age, actually it's saving a social media post and timing it such that they may come on when they die, or researching suicide methods. That will be another example of making plans. And third, very important group of suicide warning signs would be, just leave it there, and the previous one, unusual changes in one's mood or behavior, including the presence of very intense suicidal feelings. Very characteristically, helplessness, hopelessness, and worthlessness are very telltale signs of suicidal, someone who may be feeling suicidal. So these are just very quickly suicide warning signs. I just want to use up the last few seconds of my time to go to talk about what we can do when we're supporting a suicidal person. Just want to acknowledge the Trevor Project in the US, very catchy acronym, CARE, which is, Danielle, help me click the CARE, refers to connect, accept, respond, and empower. I'll refer you to the Trevor Project website to find out more about that. And if there's one thing you take from this 8 minutes, I just want you to know that. Suicide prevention is everybody's business. You don't need to be a doctor, a nurse, a psychiatrist, a social worker, or a professional counselor to be able to support somebody who's feeling suicidal. Terima kasih. Nandri.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you, Yangfa.